everybody, Diana Dale Garbino from Muscles in Motion Professional Personal Training, and today is our Principles of Fitness, so thanks for joining us. We actually have three really great questions. So the first one is, how much muscle loss occurs as we age, with high intensity training or without? So that is a great question. This is one that we talk about all the time in all our seminars and just in general, really helping people to better understand what's happening. So when we're growing up, when we're kids, we're starting to put on muscle tissue because that's the mover. That's what gets us to move around and gets us doing things, which is why it's so important that your kids get moving and are playing and lifting things and running around, because they're building that really good deep muscle tissue. Then we peak around 27, 28, 29, 30, somewhere in there. We're going to have the most muscle tissue on our bodies naturally. And then we start this slow decline of not building as much naturally. So you start losing around age 30, 32, it just, it kind of depends, but we lose anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds every decade, or 3 to 5%, every decade. So the less you have to start with, 3 to 5% every decade, starts building up and gets greater and greater. So that is why working out is so important, and resistance exercise is the most beneficial, because you're going to help stop that rapid muscle loss. So if you do nothing and every year you're losing 3 to 5%, or every decade you're losing 3 to 5% of your muscle tissue, that's going to be, by the time you're 60, you're losing more and more because you don't have as much to pull from. Now, throw in any surgeries, any injuries that you have, all of that is going to create your body eating up that muscle tissue to help repair whatever's happening. So it's very important to try to minimize that muscle loss as much as possible. And so that's why, that to me is the main reason that high intensity training works so well, is because we're focusing on keeping that strength component and keeping that muscle tissue on your body. So without it, you're just going to lose muscle tissue. You're just going to put on more fat, because the body then wants to kind of keep its composition the same. So you're just going to replace the muscle with more fat, and then you're going to become more unhealthy. Your joints are going to ache more. It's going to be harder to get up and down stairs. It's going to be harder to go out and do the things that you want to do. You want to go for a hike. You want to go golf. You want to go play with your grandkids, you want to go for a run. Those things become more difficult because there's more stress placed on the tendons, the ligaments, and the joints, because there's not as much muscle tissue to cushion that and be the source of energy and power that's needed for just life in general. So I'm a big proponent of working out, as you all know. So that's the main reason, is that we want to prevent that muscle loss. Now, on the flip side of that, most people say, well, once I hit 60, I can't build muscle tissue anymore. And I'm going to tell you that is a load of crapola, because you can build muscle per the research. What I've seen here at the gym, we have people that worked out in their 90s. They're still building muscle tissue. They're maintaining what they have. They're still staying strong. They're living in their homes. They're driving. They're doing things that 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds are doing. So that's not true. It's not true that you cannot build muscle after 60. You most certainly can. So make sure that you're working out. Make sure that it's good resistance training. It's safe, it's efficient, and it's effective for you. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is intermittent fasting for women over 50. Okay, so we don't do a whole lot with food in here. We have people that we refer to. So my first thing is that you want to work with a registered dietitian, as opposed to a nutritionist. So a registered dietitian is someone who has a master's degree and understands what's happening to your body, has all the latest research. I'm not a big fan of eliminating full portions of food. I think moderation is how you maintain being healthier. Now, with that said, there are lots of people that have food allergies, myself included. There are people who don't want to eat certain things for For the world, they just want things to be a little bit different. That's fine, but you know, I really like people to eat as much of a little bit of everything in moderation. And intermittent fasting, I know that's kind of the latest thing. I am not a huge fan of it because it's becoming more not just intermittent, it's more of, well, I do it on this certain day every week. And it's really meant that, you know, if you overeat, you just eat a little bit less on this day. So I'm not a huge fan of the intermittent fasting, and I really would highly recommend that you see a registered dietitian so you make sure that the nutrition component is proper and you're getting the right nutrients. So probably not quite what you wanted to hear, but that's my recommendation. All right, and the last question we have is the difference between upper body strength in men and women. So we talk about that a lot, or at least I talk about that with my clients to make sure that they understand what's happening. So we don't have as much testosterone as men. So women in general have about as much testosterone as a 10-year-old boy. And I don't know about you, but I don't see a lot of big buff 10-year-old little boys running around. So that's about as much testosterone as we have. That's about as much as I want. I don't want a whole lot, but I want enough to keep me healthy, and there's a balance. So for men, they have the testosterone, which helps them develop their upper body strength. We have more estrogen, which helps us with our lower body. So when it comes to working out, it's so much more important for us women to make sure that we are working our upper body properly. Most women like to work their legs, myself included, because I know I'm strong there and I know that I'm going to be really successful. But it's equally as important for me to work my upper body so that I keep my shoulders healthy. So I can't tell you how many women I've met that don't have a lot of shoulder muscle. They have like divots in there, or they just have a lot of pain or lack of range of motion, or they've had frozen shoulder, that sort of thing. So we want to make sure that we keep good range of motion, lots of strength in there, really building the chest muscles and the back muscles and the shoulder muscles up so that they are healthier when they go to pick stuff up off the floor, if they go to pick their kids up, or whatever it is that they need to do, that they have this good strength so that when they're reaching for something and lifting it, they aren't tearing the shoulders, they aren't doing damage. The chest muscles aren't getting weaker and rounding. This is the big one. So for women that don't work their upper body enough, the chest muscles will start to shrink, which then pulls the shoulders forward, which then causes the back to start rounding. And when that back starts rounding, they start to get, what they can get is called Dowinger's hump. And that is where the muscles actually make small breaks into the spine. And then they fuse in there and their back stays rounded. So we want to have good balance and that good shoulder strength and chest strength and back strength so they can hold good posture so they're not getting rounded. So if you sit at a desk all day long, make sure that you're pulling those shoulders back. Make sure you're working out and you're actually contracting those muscles in the back to pull the chest up and pull the shoulders back to keep them in alignment. So there is a big difference between men and women and how the parts that we need to keep a little bit stronger, things that are easier for them. And for the men, we got to keep your legs stronger, just like the women. So I hope this was helpful, and thanks so much for tuning in.